Welcome to One Chapter, One Thought. I'm Pastor Chris from Lincroft Bible Church in New Jersey, and every weekday I read one chapter of the Bible and offer one brief devotional thought. Today's reading is from the book of Genesis, chapter 13. So Abram left Egypt and traveled north into the Negev, along with his wife and Lot and all that they owned. Abraham was very rich in livestock, silver, and gold. From the Negev, they continued traveling by stages towards Bethel, and they pitched their tents between Bethel and Ai, where they had camped before. This was the same place where Abram had built the altar, and there he worshipped the Lord again. Lot, who was traveling with Abram, had also become very wealthy, with flocks of sheep and goats, herds of cattle, and many tents. But the land could not support both Abram and Lot with all their flocks and herds living so close together. Disputes broke out between the herdsmen of Abram and Lot. At that time, the Canaanites and Perizzites were also living in the land. Finally, Abram said to Lot, "Let's not allow this conflict to come between us or our herdsmen. After all, we are close relatives. The whole countryside is open to you. Take your choice of any section of the land you want, and we will separate. If you want the land to the left, I'll take the land on the right. If you prefer the land on the right, then I'll go to the left." Lot took a long look at the fertile plains of the Jordan Valley in the directions of Zoar. The whole area was well watered everywhere, like the garden of the Lord or the beautiful land of Egypt. This was before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. Lot chose for himself the whole Jordan Valley to the east of them. He went there with his flocks and servants and parted company with his uncle Abram. So Abram settled in the land of Canaan, and Lot moved his tents to a place near Sodom and settled among the cities of the plain. But the people of this area were extremely wicked and constantly sinned against the Lord. After Lot had gone, the Lord said to Abram, "Look, as far as you can, in every direction, north and south, east and west. I am giving you all this land as far as you can see, to you and your descendants, as a permanent possession. And I will give you so many descendants that, like the dust of the earth, they cannot be counted. Go, walk through the land in every direction, for I am giving it to you." So Abram moved his camp to Hebron and settled near the oak grove belonging to Mamre. There he built an altar to the Lord. One thought. After God calls Abraham to himself, Abraham goes out with his family and follows God. Unfortunately, a conflict erupts between Abraham's workers and his nephew Lot's workers. So Abram, with great integrity, I think, gives his nephew Lot the first choice of the land of where to settle. And it is at this point that we begin to see Lot unraveling. We see Lot begin unraveling because it says in verse 10 that Lot lifted up his eyes, and seeing beautiful, desirable things, echoes Eve in the garden. It says that Lot took a long look at the fertile plains of the Jordan Valley in the directions of Zoar. The whole area was well watered everywhere, like the garden of the Lord or the beautiful land of Egypt. But then there's this little side note, this little foreshadowing note that the author puts in here. This was before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. And so the author is indicating to us that Lot looking out and having his eyes enticed by what this looked like was not a good thing. But then we see Lot making another poor decision of intention, where in verse 11 it says, Lot chose for himself the whole Jordan Valley. So Lot is not this unwitting participant in this where he's just like, oh, I don't know how this happened. It says, no, Lot saw this and he chose to go there, chose to put himself in harm's way, chose to go to a place that is, or near a place that is extremely wicked. So Lot doesn't just stumble into this downward spiral in his life, but he chooses it. And then we see another intention on Lot's part. In verse 12, it says, Lot moved his tents to a place near Sodom. And I think that's such a powerful image, right? Especially for us and how we think of temptation, where Lot is like, oh, well, I know that Sodom is wicked, but I'll just go near there. I won't actually go in there. I'll just go near it. And I can kind of have the best of both worlds. I can have the fertile ground and the land all around it. And, but I will only be near this source of temptation. I'm not actually going to walk through the door there. But what we find out later is that Lot actually then moves into Sodom. And in fact, in later chapters, in chapter 19, we find out that Lot sat at the gate of the city, meaning he was on the town council of Sodom. And so what we see in this text is, Lot is successful by the standards of his time. It says he was extremely wealthy. He had all these flocks. He had all these tents. He had, everything that you could want in that day. But he is unaware that by his own choices, he is moving towards destruction. Such blessings, quote unquote blessings of money and fame and comfort, they're empty. The text is showing us they're empty without a covenant relationship with God. I think this chapter is showing us, there's kind of two paths to blessing. There's just the purely material, and is that truly blessing if you're going to end up destroyed? Or there's the blessing of God on your life, which Abraham has. So who's really blessed here? Is it Lot or is it Abram? Now, what choice would you have made if you were in Lot's case? Do you have such a vibrant relationship with God that you could be like Abram and say, you know what? You take first pick. I will purposely kind of deny myself these things in order to follow the Lord? Or are we enticed by the glitz and by the success and the comfort and the wealth and all of those things, even if it's going to put our soul in peril? Who's really blessed? Those who are in Christ have every spiritual blessing in the heavenly places, and that's where we can stay anchored.